start? I don't know if that would make a difference.
No, you're good, Chris. We can get it going. Okay. Just to be mindful of your time, but appreciate you joining us today. Welcome to the Summer Out There podcast. Really excited to connect with you. It seems like it's been a busy couple of years for you as well with a lot of the releases you've had, especially with the most recent one you had last week or last month, I should say. My name's Jonathan Weaver. It's my brother James Weaver here. But really wanted to just kick it off for our listeners that aren't familiar with you. This is Mr. Chris Ballew. A lot of different projects attached to your name, starting with the presidents of the United States. You've even dipped into working with the children's scene, working with an alternative identity, if you will, there. But wanted to open it up first to bring the audience back to our listeners to see where it all started. We know that you kind of grew up in the midst of Seattle and Washington, and that being a big mecca for a lot of the grunge scene coming up and the big influential people, including yourself and your band. But can you talk to us a little bit about that origin scene for you and how that kind of added itself and kind of started having that growth for you into finding yourself into your art and what you have today?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Seattle's my home and I love it very much. It's, the air, the water, the smells, the sounds, the rain, it all is like in my soul, like growing up. And I moved away to the East Coast of the U.S. to New York and Boston for quite a while before the president's scene happened, and kind of lost track of how much Seattle meant to me just on a personal level, not like even about music. And I woke up one morning in Boston and I was like, what am I doing? And why am I slogging it through these summers and winters? And I'm not feeling good. And I went back to Seattle, and the president's kind of blossomed out of that joy of returning to Seattle after 8 or 9 years away and just feeling all that love for this atmosphere. And I had all these songs that had been kind of shepherded from band to band, and I skimmed the best ones off the top and gave them to the presidents, and we kind of bottled our joy at initially me moving back, and then subsequently our musical connection that we had. Me and Dave and Jason just had this ESP kind of connection musically. So and the scene was very fertile as far as audiences in clubs goes. There were lots of ears ready to hear the next big thing in every club. Because, when we started playing, it was, we started playing December of 93. And then I kind of earmark the progression of the scene in Seattle pre Kurt Cobain suicide and post. Although I don't believe it was a suicide, but that's a whole other side. That's a side chain. And so we kind of came up in the post realm, and people were out at clubs every night looking to see the next big thing. And so we got to play in front of people without really doing much. And we just played a lot. Jason was a booking agent actually at one of the clubs we played at. So our drummer booked us as many times as he could possibly manage to pencil us in on the opening or middle slot of a bunch of gigs at his venue. And so, we just snowballed. So it was really there were so many people who were interested in figuring out what was next. And we happened to be a good candidate for what was next. Because I think we made people feel good. But the music wasn't entirely silly. We had silly lyrics and abstract lyrics, but also a little bit of edge, a little bit of longing, a little bit of ennui, or whatever you want to call it, a little bit of yearning in the sounds and in the lyrics, and enough to give it a little weight. So, because of the music that was around before we came on the scene, I think I connected with grunge music, all the bands. I loved them all, especially Nirvana. I mean, that album, Nevermind, was just, it just it scratched every itch I had. So there's the influence in there, there's DNA from what came before, but I decided to, take it back to the party rock that Seattle was famous for before grunge. You know, you had the Wailers and the Kingsmen and Paul Revere and the Raiders and the Young Fresh Fellows and the Fastbacks and all these like fun bands. And we're like, let's circle back to the fun times. So that's kind of where we came from.
Yeah, you just hit right now. Something I had read about is that like you guys were into like the Kingsmen, bands as like that. What was it like when you guys were coming up and the club scene in Seattle, when you had other bands who were like maybe it's a little more darker stuff? Was it easy to strike a conversation with your fellow rock music scene, or was it?
I mean, they're all. The funny part about it is there's a lot of intensity and angst, I guess, and edginess and all that to the music. But get any of those guys, a beer or two, and they're nice people. They're just.
That's a good point. Yeah, to that being able to relate. I mean, there's this art that y'all are focused around. Be it if it's darker, a little bit more lighter with still that deep meaning, but being able to relate at that musical level. My question now is based off of y'all kind of going to a different trajectory with the grunge scene, which is a little dark and a little more kind of serious as you were looking at building your craft and really changing that practice. What was your creative process like as you were building out your music and with There He Is and with your bandmates, and then as you were leading them, what was that creative process like to kind of steer away or kind of go in a different direction with all that happening in Seattle?
Well, I didn't write the songs directly in sort of contradiction to what was happening in Seattle. Excuse me. I was just writing songs that made me happy. I've always been a pretty happy person, and I've always had a certain kind of attraction to writing songs that were funny or inviting, like lyrics that kind of invite you in on the joke or are abstract but uplifting. My MO has always been to get in front of an audience and lift them up, like make the room elevate. And so it just, it's a matter of right place, right time. The Presidents were just another in a long series of little funny bands that I'd put together over the years. And I thought, it'll just be another one, last for a couple of years, whatever, and it'll go on to the next thing. But it happened to be right place, right time. It was the right flavor, or kind of tone that people needed at that point. So really, it wasn't like I was pushing battleships around on a map, being like, what would be the perfect thing to do now that, it wasn't that calculated. It was really just a matter of other cultural forces allowing me to, get a shot at the big time, air quotes.
That's awesome. And I know you've mentioned in some of your practice, some or an aspect that influences your music and even your practice in life is, and correct me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, is Qigong. Right?
Qigong, yeah.
Right. How does that influence your life, your music, into that perspective as you're speaking about elevating life, elevating the audience? How does that practice affect that?
Yeah, well, that practice is about sort of detaching from your ego and your sort of inner dialogue and all the little parts of you that are asking for attention and, trying to help you basically, but they can be kind of destructive. It's sort of managing that negotiation with your ego army is how I put it. And part of that is stopping, doing the Qigong thing is about kind of stopping that dialogue and just feeling what it is to just be alive, aside from your own mind and the chatter inside. So, that actually really has helped me get to where I am now, making the music I'm currently making, which lyrically is all about that relationship between your mind and your body and death and birth and life and just, getting to be here and getting to be, if the egg in front of me, the month before me and the month after me had been fertilized, it wouldn't have been me. And so we've all won the lottery just by getting to be alive. I mean, it's incredible. So it's sort of like practice of breathing and movement, and it's about appreciating just the base level experience of being alive beyond identity and attachment. So yeah, it's really become a big part of the music I'm making now.
That's great. Appreciate that. I'm a big fan of the cold sheets, by the way, at the moment. So that one resonated with me.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now that I'm on, now you can see my face. I just want to say that it's a tremendous honor having you on.
Thank you.
The first cassette I ever bought was it was called Modern Rock. It had the President, Korn, and it's the first time hearing Lump. So I mean, ever since I heard the beginning of Lump, it's like for some reason I think it rang a bell. I think I'm not trying to blow smoke, but I think you guys are the reason why I got into rock music. It was fifth grade. Absolutely, it was fifth grade, and I was trying to. I guess like everybody, you're trying to find something to get into, and one of our radio stations here in San Antonio it's called 99.5 Kiss. So after listening to you guys, it kind of got me into that radio station. I got into other bands such as Veruca Salt and like bands of that era, Bush. I actually thought Bush, when I first heard them, were the Goo Dolls, and that was not the case.
I thought Bush was kind of like a Nirvana Junior, actually, in my world. And I actually hung out with Gavin Rossdale in the 90s at one point, and he knew I was from Seattle, and he was such a dear guy. He was just like, I'm sorry we sound so much. We're not trying to rip off grunge. This is just what I sound like. I'm sorry. I was like, dude, don't worry about it. You're all good. Yeah.
It's so weird because it's so funny you brought that up. Another band like Bush is like, they sound very, very from California. They kind of sound like STP in a way for some reason. I don't know why, but
sure, yeah. Those bands both in the mind of a Seattleite are kind of chips off the block, if you will, kind of, but that's what happens when you have a movement, like the birth of rock and roll and everything, Bill Haley and the Comets and Elvis Presley, and then you got all these people come out of the woodwork to join forces with the original vibe. So I count those bands among that kind of wave. Absolutely.
And so like jumping in, so you spent time with Beck. And
yeah.
I see that aesthetic with your music, and I see it with Beck, and I read in an interview that Beck was like kind of didn't want to get too personal with the audience, but you did. And now I feel like Beck, that's all he wants to do now is, where he gets like, where he adds the stage presence. I think he's had like sometimes where he's put like puppets and stuff where he engages with the audience. What's your take on that? Because if anything, I feel like maybe you inspired him, but I mean, you guys did live together for a while. Is that correct?
Yeah, we did. I was the only band member not from LA, so he let me live with him. And it was amazing to be around him. First of all, he's an insane genius. I mean, he would write a song in 5 minutes that sounded like it would take me 5 months to write, lyrically dense, perfect, like mishmash of kaleidoscopic cultural references in his lyrics, and the flow and everything was so good. He was actually so talented that my own creativity started to shut down around him because he was just such a shining light. But yeah, when it came to the band, he'd never fronted a band before. He had no idea how to front a band. And he was also grappling with this situation where the Loser song wasn't really his favorite song, it wasn't his, what he really wanted to be the number one song that everybody knew. And he kind of wanted to dismantle that happy-go-lucky, king of the losers or king of the slackers thing that was getting foisted upon him. So he just decided to be like Sonic Youth Jr. and put the head, turn up the volume and cut loose. And I guess to me, it felt a little like, maybe a little distant from the audience and kind of like a wall of noise. But it was also super interesting. There were hills and valleys. He would do acoustic stuff in the middle of the set. And But yeah, he didn't really start doing the showbiz, like, putting on the cape like James Brown and then, taking it off and coming back for more until I left the band. There was one show we did in New York opening up for Evel Knievel where I convinced Beck to let everybody let their freak flag fly. We all wore crazy outfits. I had gold pants and a big cowboy hat and a gold guitar. We all kind of like had one show where we really like put on what would feel more like a later Beck show. So yeah, I do remember seeing him live after I went back to do the Presidents and being like, now if I was in that band, if that was the band, I might not have quit. And so in some ways it's better it was not my scene because I did my own thing. So, it all worked out.
Where are you currently at right now, Chris? Or where are you out of Seattle, still living in Seattle?
Technically, I'm in the same county. I'm in King County, but I'm on an island called Vashon Island, and it's just southwest of Seattle, a little 20-minute ferry ride to West Seattle, and then a drive down to actual Seattle proper. So, yeah, I'm out in the woods. Just built this house in the last year and a half, and yeah. It's kind of my retirement pad.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, because I took a trip out to Tacoma maybe about 6 months ago, and it was my first time out there. And it's as you mentioned, it's just a different vibe that I'm used to. It's a different energy it's great to kind of check out, but I'm always curious to go back and see what else I haven't seen because it was about 3 or so days out there, but it's a different vibe out there.
Tacoma's we're on the south end of Vashon, and Tacoma is the ferry to Tacoma is just like 5 minutes south of our house. So we're kind of just north of Tacoma. Nice. Yeah. So are you guys both in San Antonio now?
We are. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Are you in different rooms of the same house or different parts of San Antonio?
Different parts of San Antonio. Have you been to San Antonio, by the way, Chris?
Probably. Probably have. There's a lot of blurry touring time back from the 90s.
No, that's great. I want to ask you now about your art. We've been kind of reviewing your art as well, cool. And it's very. It's hard to describe for me, but it's kind of alluring to me. I like the black tones to it, the black and white, but it's also very warped in a sense as well. Can you talk to us a little bit about the formulation of your art? Is that something you kind of fell into, or you were like an intentional practice that you were going to create art, or tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, I went to art school in New York, did 4 years, got a Bachelor of Fine Arts, but really I didn't really do much in art school. I got there and I realized I don't really know what I am here to do. I don't know what I'm here to say. I didn't have a point of view. I was 18. So I just screwed around in the art building for 4 years, had a band, and mainly played music and, melted metal and, messed around in the art building and somehow graduated on the honor roll. I have no idea how. I was at the graduation ceremony and they're like, called out my name and I had a 3.75 grade point average. I was like, how did I do that? It's ridiculous. Anyway, I did these kind of flowy shapes. I remember drawing abstract kind of swirling shapes back then, and I don't know what they were. Flash forward to about, 8 years ago, I was in a bookstore in Michigan with my wife, and she picked up a calendar of Inuit printmaking, and specifically this one artist named Kenojuak Ashavak. Oh, now I screwed it up. Kenojuak Ashavak. That's it.
Third time's try.
It's hard to say. I haven't said it for a while, so I wasn't rehearsed. And she was doing the same shapes that I used to do, but they were coming off of animals, and it was kind of like energy lines, like kind of drawing animals as if the limitation of their influence in their atmosphere wasn't just their body, but their energy. And I was like, that's it. It's about energy. And then I started drawing more like that and using that sort of Qigong inspired ego management activity as inspiration. So they're kind of like totems for different mnemonics I would use to think about ego management and, ideas about being alive and, eventually dying and all that stuff. So they're kind of like little totems that remind me of dialogues I've had in that context. So, yeah. And then lately, actually, I've been doing, so the style that you see on my website is pretty, tight and well orchestrated and, kind of lots of little dots and very work surfaces and lots of filled in black spots. But I'm kind of doing more stuff like this now. I know this is audio only, so you can't see, but I'm doing this really like kind of loose, doodly. It's more doodly kind of improvisational, screwed up little weird characters and stuff. And I think I'm going to do an art show here on Vashon at the end of the year. So, I'm doing it again. I didn't do it I did it for a bunch of years. I didn't do it for a bunch of years. My general thing is I kind of wait for inspiration or signals from elsewhere to kind of guide me. Like the Casper Baby Pants, the kids' music thing was something I stumbled onto as an answer to a question, not a decision. And the music I'm making now is something that just kind of like started to flow. And so anyway, the art, the faucet flows on and then it turns off and off and on. So I kind of just ride the wave.
So, awesome. So I did see that you do have an artsy side to you, and then like the band president. The video for Peaches was very well orchestrated. I feel it was very like well done. The ninjas, the box of Peaches as an amplifier. Was that an original idea that you guys brought upon the director maybe, or was it something that they came to you about?
Yeah. We didn't really have a good idea for that video. We got on the phone. The guy who made the video for us is Roman Coppola, who is Francis Ford Coppola's son. And we got on a conference call with him, and all I had was, we want to be under a tree outside. I kind of wanted nature to be part of it, cause that's what we loved. And, there was kind of silence on the phone because he's like, that's really not enough to make a video. And he's like, how do you feel about being attacked by ninjas? And we're like, yes. Because I guess he had been watching kung fu movies and being the son of a famous filmmaker and wanting to get into making movies himself. He was like, it'd be good exercise for him to try to put together a kung fu fight scene. So we did it. And we had big air mattresses that we used to fall out of trees. And we shot every shot like one little, okay, now in this shot, you're just going to go like this. And then in another shot, you're going to go this. And so it was all just like little tiny shots that he then made into a magic sequence.
It's got quite a few million views on it. So, it's awesome. Cause that's kind of the way I like things. Like the Flaming Lips too, like their videos of that time. Y'all's right, exactly, like y'all's band, and then maybe like Beck also. Okay, yeah. So the next question I want to go into is like, did you kind of like, was it like being in that group with like Flaming Lips, the band, Beck? Did you guys feel like some kind of a union at like when you guys came up on MTV and all that, or did you feel like, no, I'm part of this puzzle, you're part of that puzzle, or like any time that you guys met, did you feel any of that sort of feeling? Because I feel like maybe like you guys kind of like all together came up with like maybe it was like a whole like it was a big puzzle that you guys connected. But that's just me.
Yeah, no, I think it's more everybody has their own trajectory and kind of something to say. And then, the tone of the moment dictates who gets to, be heard. Because at that point, there was a bottleneck. You had to get on the radio or on MTV to really be in the show. And so, because of that the taste of the popular taste of the time would be kind of narrow, because a lot of those radio shows and MTV, they're not really into taking a lot of risks. So things don't advance very quickly as far as style changes, unless there's a sea change like Nevermind, when Nirvana's album, when that came out, it just like clicked everything over. So that's why it would appear like, okay, this tone is all happening now, and maybe this has been coordinated. Well, it's really not the band's coordinating. It's more that those tastemakers at the bottleneck who are saying like, all right, you can go through and you can go through and you can go through, but you can't because you don't fit what's selling right now. I mean, that's a theory. I'm not sure if that's, 100%, that's not the full range of the dynamics at play, but, that's how it felt at the time. So, but yeah, I love, I've had some really, really good run-ins with Beck in the years since I was in his band. And I'm definitely due for a catch up with him. I don't know. I have friends here on the island who are friends with his son. And so I'm trying to get it'd be fun to have another conversation with Beck about where we've all gotten to over the years. But yeah, it's funny. I'll run into, like I was saying before, a lot of the people that kind of sound tough on stage are super nice guys. You're making me, for some reason, reminding me of running into the Fun Lovin' Criminals. Do you remember Fun Lovin' Criminals?
I don't know.
Oh man, they're a great band. You should check them out. But anyway, we became friendly with them because we played a lot of shows with them, but they were kind of like toughies, but and we were not. So, anyway.
That's awesome. And I'll be remiss as well. I know one of the plugins where I just kind of was diving more into like, I got to find out more about this band was y'all threw a cover of course, the Drew Carey show. So that was another plugin there that I was very excited about. That there was an original song, but that cover that y'all portrayed the song through really, in my opinion, catapulted that song to a next level as well. Was that something how did y'all fall upon that opportunity, or how did that work out for y'all? Or did y'all, were connected to the show somehow, or how did that happen?
We were on the Rosie O'Donnell show when she had a talk show, and Drew Carey was another guest on the show. And he knocked on our trailer door and came in. And as I remember it, he came in with like 2 9-foot tall supermodels on each arm and hung out for a while. And we hit it off and had a great time just shooting the shit. And then he called not too long after, called our manager and said that he wanted us to, I think there was a theme song before the one we did, and he wanted to revamp the intro to the show and have us cover Cleveland Rocks. So we got invited basically by Drew Carey to do it because of hanging out in our trailer at the Rosie O'Donnell show. And it's just bizarre. It's not always what it's who I guess, as the saying goes. But yeah, that was fun. And then at the very end of that, when there's that Ohio, that's Drew. He called in a vocal to the recording studio that we did the cover in and added his little Ohio thing to it. So yeah, we got to do the song not too long ago, maybe 6 or 7 years ago he's part owner of our soccer team, the Sounders, and we did it at a Sounders game and that he was at. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hey, it's so cool.
Yeah. That was also my first glimpse into the world of doing theme songs for shows and doing music for commercials and video games. And I did that for like 15 years. I scored a couple video games, did a theme song for a couple shows, did a lot of incidental music and licensing of music. So yeah, that was that kind of opened my eyes to a way to make money as a musician that wasn't about being away from home all the time.
Awesome. And that kind of, I'm curious to your response on this question. It's a recurring question we have with some of the artists we had. I know we're talking to one of the former Ramones last month, and then the Toadies, we asked them the same question, but it seems like obviously there's experience had, right? You've traveled, you've experienced life, gone through different obstacles to some extent. What advice would you give to yourself if you were to go back, let's say, at your more formative years as a teenager, right before you becoming that adult, with the knowledge you have now? What advice would you give to yourself back then?
I would tell myself this. I would say, Chris, you are a fixer. And there's a great power in that. There's a great positive and there's a great negative in that you need to be aware of. The positive is you want to help people. You want to make people feel good. You want to sort of offer people an escape from their problems through songs and melody and lyrics and all that stuff. So that's great. The negative side is that you're going to have a hard time asking for what you want as opposed to what you could do to please other people. That's more in your life, like in interpersonal relationships, creative relationships, stuff like that. So be aware, Mr. Fixer, that you will have great power and great trouble because of your impulse to fix.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
It's just like, do you feel like maybe like with like bands that it's just like when you create something from the beginning, it seems very like like it falls into place. But like I've never really been in a band, but so what happens along the way where it's like, yeah, this is not working, and I mean, even though we're making something completely cool and people are getting turned on, what do you feel maybe is like during the way that starts to like disconnect band members where to the point where they're like band meeting and then that's it?
Yeah,
what do you
that's what happened with us, actually. That's what happened with us in 1997. I called a band meeting and quit. It's when the 3 people want, or 4 people, or however many band members are, when they want different things. Because I think when you're young, you don't really know yourself well enough to know what you do and don't want. And I know from my experience anyway, I was really dazzled by the opportunity to get signed and go on tour and make videos and do all that stuff and be in a successful band. I didn't check in with myself to see if it's really what I wanted. And it's a very specific lifestyle. It's like, it's intense. And to do it once with your debut record is great. To repeat it, I could immediately see that the repetition of the challenge of proving ourselves was more than we as a band could handle. I kind of jokingly suggested when we got signed that we should just break up immediately, and like the Sex Pistols, just like freeze ourselves in a perfect state and move on. So I don't know. I think I did not have a good, I didn't have a good way to tell those guys that I was not having a good time. And, this is, you think you're going to, you think when you get famous or successful or whatever, all your problems are over. Well, you're actually handed a whole host of new problems that you have to deal with on top of your just basic life problems. And some people are equipped to deal with that and stay true to themselves and write from their heart and keep writing hits and all that stuff. But it's just not my scene, man. I just felt like I had to keep evolving. So I kept it bottled inside. After 4 years, 94 and 98, those last couple of years, I was just like, I want out, but I didn't say anything. So I finally did go to a band meeting and I was like, I quit. And I kind of regret that. And then of course, 5 years later, we got back together and it was fantastic because it was like being in a President's cover band, because we were the best President's cover band ever. It was amazing. We had I dealt with the frustrations from the first round. We didn't tour as much. We had a life outside the band, and we got to really enjoy the fruits of our labor during that second term from 2003 to 2015. That was a good stretch. So bottom line is I am not supposed to be in a band at all. I love working at home alone like a mad scientist, pulling in all kinds of different sounds, deleting the entire guitar part if it's not working without hurting anyone's feelings. Just the song is everything, and working to serve the song is so much more important to me than being in a room full of sweaty guys.
That's talking from insights there. That's deep knowledge acquired over time.
But that's just me. That's me. Some people are definitely built to be collaborative and be in a band, and that's cool. But I've come to realize that is not my style.
So one more question before we let you go. So as you do know, I don't know if you do know, but Perry Farrell's Porno for Pyros, they reformed for this year's Lollapalooza.
Oh yeah.
So being that you're I mean, if anything, I put you at the same pedestal as Perry Farrell, a creative, Wayne Coyne. Is there maybe a possibility of a reunion in some way, shape, or form in the future for the presidents? I'm sorry if it sounds kind of like on my part, but I love seeing you on stage and part of a unit of functions. Sorry if I'm being very up forward, but I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I'm a big fan of Never Say Never. When we broke up in '98, if you told me we'd get back together 5 years later, I would have thought you were crazy. But the timing, you never know. You never know. If we do it though, there's got to be a way where I'm not killing my ears. One of the other things I hated about touring and playing in a loud rock band, when we started out, we were not a loud rock band. We were a little tiny, weird cabaret act, basically. But then we got big and we had to stand up in front of tens of thousands of people at festivals and play. And so we got loud, and that kind of bummed me out, because in our early days, we were trying to be a rock band. It's like, look at those three dorks up there trying to rock. Aren't they amazing? And then we actually did start to rock, and that killed my ears. So never say never, but if we did it, I would imagine I'm imagining some sort of stage set that's a back porch, and we're sitting on the back porch with acoustic guitars, and everybody sings along, and it's like a different approach, not so much like here's some rock in your face, but more like everybody join in. Let's all sing the songs. Give out little songbooks, like turn to page 64 in your hymnal and we'll sing Dune Buggy.
Oh man, yeah, that'd be awesome too. I mean, that's stuff
you never know.
That.
I mean,
that'd be cool.
It's a vague vision I have. Who knows if that's real or just sort of a flight of fancy? We'll find out.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for having us. We appreciate your time. It says even through a Zoom call, you can see and attest to what you're talking about being a welcoming person, about just being present, down to earth. So we really appreciate your time with us. I really hope the best. And hopefully I'll take a visit up to Seattle soon.
Okay.
It's just one thing too is that I'm trying to contain myself because it's just like I can't believe it. I'm talking to you. You're like your style of like
I am
music,
real.
It's just like your style of music, and I mean it's like it was you guys. It was the Flaming Lips, Nirvana was like a very, very like good combination of music, and if for some reason it didn't come out right with the questions, I apologize, but it's just I'm very starstruck. I hope to have you on some other time. You ever need anything, let us know.
Cool.
We really enjoyed having this interview, and I didn't mean to pause so much. I wanted you to talk, and I wanted you to give us. We wanted to know exactly what you were, how you wanted to explain things, but. Once again, thank you very much for being on the Summer podcast. And like I said, if you need anything, let us know. And we hope to see you, do more things. And the Castor Baby Pants, that's cool. That's awesome. So
yeah, that was a good time. And then make sure to send people to chrisballew.org. I'm giving away tons of music. I made music for meditation. I made this weird sampledelic stuff. I have all these old cassettes from the 90s that I've digitized, and it's all free. You can stream it or download it. Also, my new album, Primitive God, just came out a few weeks ago. It's on Spotify and all that, but if you want to download it for free, you can do it at chrisballew.org. So yeah, send people there. I'm just giving away this new music for free because it feels good, and it makes it so I don't think about money while I'm making it.
Awesome.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. All right, have a great day. See ya.